I've mentioned lack of watering and root rots as two reasons why you might see wilting in plants. There's another group of diseases where wilting is a primary symptom. They're called vascular wilt diseases. And what happens with these particular diseases is that the pathogens, in this particular case we're dealing with fungal pathogens, they enter into the plant, they get established in the water conducting tissue, the xylem, and they lead to blockages in that tissue. So the plants can take up water, but they can't transport it from the roots to the upper branches, and that leads to wilting and dieback in the plants. Some of our very, very serious tree diseases are vascular wilt diseases. You've probably heard of Dutch elm disease, probably also heard of oak wilt. These are both vascular wilt diseases. In this particular slide, I'm showing you a third vascular wilt disease called Verticillium wilt. Now, Dutch elm disease is pretty specific to elms. Oak wilt is pretty specific to oaks. With Verticillium wilt, though, that particular disease goes to a variety of different types of woody ornamentals. Also, it will go to herbaceous plants, and also it's a big problem on certain vegetable crops as well. The pathogen is called Verticillium. Again, it gets into the plant, gets into the water conducting tissue, and blocks it off. What we typically see, at least initially on the outside of the plant, is wilting and dieback. And then one of the things I look for when I'm trying to diagnose this is I will cut off a branch that is wilting and I start peeling off the bark. And that's what I'm showing in this particular slide. When you have these vascular wilt diseases, oftentimes if you peel off the bark and look right underneath the bark, that's where the xylem is located, you'll typically see a lot of browning or some sort of discoloration. It can be a solid mass, it can be streaks, but you will see some sort of discoloration. This is called vascular discoloration, vascular browning, could be vascular greening. Lots of times in maples with verticillium, the discoloration is more of a green rather than a brown, but you'll see this discolored tissue right underneath the bark. And you can see it here in this particular slide where the black arrow is pointing. And that's giving you a sense of where the pathogen is colonizing the water conducting tissue. And I use this as a guide when I'm trying to culture from these wilted branches. So I take little bits of that discolored tissue, I put it on a growth medium, and I try to get the fungus to grow out of that tissue. And that's how I eventually identify whether I'm dealing with Dutch elm disease or oak wilt or verticillium wilt. These are really, really nasty diseases. Typically when we have oak wilt, Dutch elm disease, verticillium wilt, basically the trees are going to die. We are really talking about tree removal, and then particularly with verticillium wilt, because the pathogen has such a wide host range, we have to be very, very careful what we replant in that area.